The November 13th Board of Education meeting to order. Wichita Public Schools will be the premier district of choice and inspire each student and staff member to thrive and become future-ready within the greater community. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Our flag is presented tonight by the Crystal McCullough Academy. It's presented by Emmy Ginn, Zachariah Hunter Carter, Kylie James, and Fernando Garcia Roman. Please rise for the presentation of the colors.
CMA would like to request permission to post the colors.
You may post the colors.
Step. Face. March. Post.
Half left face.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready, do.
About face. Forward, march. Face. Step.
Half left face.
Face. Forward, march.
Thank you very much to the Crystal McCullough Academy JRTC cadets. They did an excellent job. First item.
First item, under Student Success, Superintendent's Student Advisory Committee.
Welcome. It's good to see you here again.
Yeah, again.
We like you. This is good.
I like it too. Good evening, President Logan, Vice President Albert, Superintendent Bielefeld, and members of the board. It is an honor to have another opportunity to represent the student voice with my role as a proud Super SAC member. My name is Israel Torres, and I'm finally a senior at Northeast Magnet. At our Super SAC meeting, we discussed communication / telling your story in small groups. We were asked, what is the best way to communicate with students about opportunities to enhance student success? We felt that an app would be great as it would be convenient for students and families. Students could receive notifications about opportunities that tailor to them and be able to sign up for more information through the app. It could also be a way to highlight stories about students participating in different programs at USD 259. Since this would take time, a district-wide or school-wide remind can work. So students also suggested face-to-face as it guarantees that information is communicated to all students. We thought that monthly assemblies could work well and that they should have students that are currently using the opportunity be part of the presentation. Students also felt that there could be better communication with our College and Career Center, especially with the schools that have greater sizes. It was suggested that there could be communication through social media by having active school Instagram accounts. Finally, we felt that information can also be communicated through email, so middle school and high school students can start getting into the habit of checking their email, as a lot of opportunities such as scholarships and programs are sent through it. Our next question was, what are the opportunities, activities, career insight, etc. students want to know more about? We said mental health, scholarships, college preparation, mentoring programs, apprenticeships, shadowing opportunities, more education on opportunities after graduation, whether it be work, college, or military, community service opportunities, opportunities to engage with different cultures, the impact of artificial intelligence, CTE classes, and student leadership opportunities. Our third question was, who needs to hear from students? We said everyone needs to hear from students. This includes district leaders, staff members / administration, younger students, families, college recruiters, local nonprofit organizations, and local employers. Our final question was about what kinds of stories. We said stories about first-generation college students, different cultures, student athletes, USD 259 alumni that are in different career paths, alumni that have gone beyond an undergraduate degree, and testimonies from individuals who made mistakes that impacted their life and career. I'm grateful that we were given an opportunity to share our student voice. Our next Super SAC meeting is Wednesday, December 6th at 11:30 a.m., where we will have a service project. We would love for you to join us for our last meeting of 2023. Are there any questions?
Could you repeat that date again and the time?
December 6th at 11:30 a.m.
And where at?
It's at AMAC, I think at room 831.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions?
I don't see any, but thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I could not agree with you anymore when you say everyone needs to hear from students. Amen. We really do. So thank you for being their voice.
Yep. Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, under student success, good news.
Good evening, President Logan, Vice President Albert, Superintendent Bielefeld, and members of the board. It should come as no surprise to you why our first good news item honors Israel Torres, Northeast Magnet High School, finally a senior. You know that Israel is exceptional, and you've heard him here at the podium. One of the things I didn't know until recently about him is that he has also taken full advantage of work-based learning opportunities and has been working at Textron and learning more about a potential career path. I think embodies the opportunity to take advantage of every chance we afford students to explore success and understand what the future could look like. So Carrie Keller from the College and Career Readiness Office is here to tell you more about why Israel is being recognized tonight as an exemplary example of student success.
Thank you for having me tonight. I am Carrie Keller, and I'm the Work-Based Learning Coordinator. And Israel had an internship this summer with Textron, and he continued it on into the school year. He is one of 9 students this semester, and we have slated over 100 students in the spring, potentially for internships, and we hope he continues on in the spring. But his schedule is amazing, and he is going to tell you a little bit about that here in a minute. But we would like to present this certificate of recognition of all of your hard work and being a WPS proud student, and for all of the amazing work, and you go above and beyond the typical student. His day starts at 6:30 in the morning at Textron. Then he goes to school, and then he also takes night classes, and he's going to tell you a little bit about that. You are amazing. So I would like for you to come up and share a little bit about your story, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Unfortunately, you guys had to hear from me again, but it's not about Super SAC this time, so we're good. I'm here today to talk with you about my path to graduation and future career. Although it is my senior year, I decided to challenge myself by being a student from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday. So this is because I have an internship with Textron Aviation in the customer service department in the morning. By 10 a.m., I'm at Northeast Magnet, where I indulge in extracurriculars such as being president of the Student Council, co-president of the UNICEF Club, treasurer of the National Honor Society, and then at NEM, I take dual credit honors English with Mr. Nichols and AP Calculus 1 with Mr. Melzer. After school, I've been working on college and scholarship applications with one of the best people I've met, Mr. Richard. After that, I go to WSU Tech to study aviation maintenance technology from 5 to 9 p.m. I'm the youngest student in night classes, even though it may not look like it because of my amazing mustache. So to rejuvenate from these long days, I'm a backup volunteer at the Lord's Diner on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. My favorite role is being a server, as I get to engage not only with the guests, but the volunteers. My schedule is like this because I enjoy being involved within my school and community, gaining work experiences, and then preparing for my future career. With this combination, I have not been able not to only grow as a student, but as a person. I hope to be an inspiration to other students so they can engage in these experiences and discover their passions, and most importantly, achieve life readiness. I'm grateful that I'm in a district that has been willing to work with me and allowing me to engage in these wonderful opportunities. I appreciate that they acknowledge the students who go above and beyond, as they can inspire other students to do the same. I am also thankful for the local companies like Textron Aviation that provide opportunities for students to explore multiple pathways and discover what they want in a career. So in May, I will graduate with an associate's degree of 94 total credit hours in aviation maintenance technology and a high school diploma at the same time. I'm scheduled to be a valedictorian at Northeast and a 4.0 student at WSU Tech. So I will have built momentum to succeed at Wichita State and beyond as I continue to be involved within the community and gain experiences that prepare me for my career as an engineer. So I know I covered a lot. So are there any questions?
What do you do by midnight? Goodness sakes. You're amazing for sure.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
Israel has been an inspiration not only to students but to adults as well. Please keep up the good work, and not only will colleges be seeking after you, but employers will seek after you as well. Your work ethic and dedication are subpar to none. So keep up the good work and continue to inspire others throughout your life, and thank you for everything that you've done.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll continue doing that, and kind of thank you guys again for giving me another opportunity to speak with the board. And I hope I get to speak with you guys once again, maybe before I graduate, after I graduate. I don't know. I'm happy to be here, so thank you for this opportunity.
We just want you to stay engaged with Wichita Public Schools. Thank you.
I will.
One great example of the students in our district. Israel is amazing. Next item. Wendy?
You're welcome. It's been fun to watch Israel grow, and that's really what the magic is all about. So we get to introduce you to more magic and tell you more great stories by welcoming 3 more students who have made their mark on the national landscape as National Merit semifinalists. As you know, that is no small task, and the teams at East High and Northwest have done everything and then some to support the students that you are going to meet tonight as National Merit semifinalists. So without further ado, Dr. Lauren Hatfield is here to introduce you to those students and probably their administrators and their parents as well.
Good evening. In the spirit of understanding just how difficult being a National Merit semifinalist is, a reminder that these students are in the top 1% of students in the entire country. This is the top 1%. There are approximately 16,000 students who are designated as National Merit semifinalists every year out of the 1.6 million juniors who take the test. And so this is an incredible and amazing accomplishment for these 3 young men. So we would like to recognize them. Gentlemen, when I call your name, if you come down here so that the board members could recognize you, and then we will have their administrators and families stand, because while they're the ones that take the test, we recognize that this is not entirely a solo endeavor. So our gentlemen that are our National Merit semifinalists in the class of 2024 are Shlok Prabhu from East High, Ethan Wesley from East High, and John Robertson from Northwest High. They're going to trade certificates because I put them in the wrong order. All right. And if we could have their family members please stand so that we could recognize the families of these three gentlemen. And Mrs. Richardson and Mr. Holdman, if you guys could please stand so we could recognize you guys as the principals. And as you guys know, they fight over bragging rights. The high school group text, principal group text gets real interesting on the day that the scores are released. I'll tell you that. All in good fun. Any questions or comments from the board before we allow these gentlemen to go on their way?
Well, we are incredibly proud of you all. We recognize this is not a little thing. This is a very big thing. And you are the best and the brightest and the superstars. And we really appreciate all your hard work because it will pay off. So thank you very much for being who you are and being part of Wichita Public Schools.
Before we raise forward our third item of celebration, I do want to give a nod to the Boy Scouts that are in the audience tonight from Troop 662. This Eagle Scout mom is just a little partial because this is the troop both my boys were in. So the young men and young ladies that are here tonight are working on merit badges, and this is part of their citizenship work. So Miss Crable, they're singing out of your songbook.
Would you all just stand up so we can recognize you? Stand
You'll
up.
go ahead and stand up, please.
Great job. Thank you for coming.
All right, we've had a great opportunity to celebrate young people and the amazing things they've done. That wouldn't happen without a community that's willing to stand up and embrace and support and lift them up. So several of you got to be part of the community that attended the Sedgwick County Commission meeting about a month ago when our very own Hazel Stabler accepted the county's proclamation to honor Indigenous People Day. And Hazel wanted to share that with this district and recognize our district's work to support culture and to support the Native American community. So if you would please step forward. She'll share the item from the podium.
Good evening, fellow board members and Superintendent Bielefeld. My name is Hazel Stabler, and I'm honored to be District 6 Board Representative. On October 4th, I accepted the Sedgwick County Commissioner's first Indigenous Peoples Day proclamation that was celebrated on October 11th. Our great state of Kansas was named after the Kansa, or the Kaw tribe, the people of the South Wind. You can go anywhere in Kansas and you will see the influence of the tribes that lived on this land. Named after the Wichita tribe, Wichita has a deep historical history with many different tribes. We as Indian people are especially proud of Black Bear Bosun's Keeper of the Plains. It is strategically located at the confluence of the Little and Big Arkansas rivers. Because of our unique geographic location, Wichita has been a meeting place that is well known by all tribes in the vast plains area. It is a place where you could expect hospitality and the exchange of ideas and gifts, a place that has cemented relationships throughout history. Every day, we should think about and celebrate our country's beginnings and honor the legacy of our ancestors. As the largest school district in Kansas, we have over 1,500 Native students of various tribes who represent a historic and unique population. For centuries, we have educated our children through ceremony, storytelling, and observation. I believe that it is imperative that we teach our children the contributions their ancestors have made throughout history in public service, entrepreneurship, scholastics and the arts, and countless other fields. Sitting Bull, a famous Lakota leader, wisely stated, "Let us put our minds together and see what life we can make for our children." This proclamation is historic. Recognition is important, as is public commitment in establishing positive relationships and initiatives that will inspire accurate, authentic Native American history. In 1990, Congress passed and George H.W. Bush signed into law a joint solution designating the month of November as the first Native American Indian Heritage Month. I'd like to present this historic proclamation to USD 259 to be displayed in our district, and I would like to thank our district for their continued support of Native students, their culture, and their history. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Next item, public hearing on updates to policy P5506, non-resident enrollment and admission.
We do have an open mic. I don't think anybody's signed up, but if anybody wants to express some concerns or joys about this changes in these policies, you're more than welcome. Please identify yourself, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Trish Heilman. Thank you for opening the mic like that. That was really nice of you. I didn't get a chance to sign up. So I wanted to just thank you guys for this policy. I know came down from the legislature, and that's forward thinking. But I also appreciate that you're allowing kids whose parents left their school area to stay in that school for that year, because it's so important that we don't make our kids whose parents are in crisis have to deal with that crisis. And so supporting kids to be able to stay in the school that they started the year in just has so many great benefits. The teacher, first of all, gets to actually keep that kid from beginning to end and really show the achievement that kid can make. And I have personal questions about things like busing and things that cost money and all that kind of stuff. But this is a huge thing, I think, for kids to really get to have that consistency with teachers. And so I just really thankful that you guys have applied this way for our district, which is challenging and a big district, but I think it has great outcomes for kids, and I'm very thankful.
Thank you very much. Okay. I am not seeing anyone else, so I will close the open hearing on this board policy. We will be discussing it later on in the meeting. So next item.
Next item, public communications.
And I don't believe we have anybody signed up tonight. So next item.
Next item, under education, 2024 through 2029 strategic plan development, first review of student success outcomes.
Okay. Mr. Bielefeld? We'll put you on the hot seat tonight, huh?
Well, as Patrick is passing out our notes, we'll go ahead and get started. He has the slides there. So thank you, Board of Education, for having us tonight. I'm Superintendent Kelly Bielefeld with, you can introduce yourself.
Gil Alvarez, Deputy Superintendent.
And we're excited. We're excited because we are getting close to the end of the strategic planning process. So I want to share a little bit about where we're at, have the opportunity for discussion and questions, and then final action will be taken in December at the next meeting. So we won't vote on anything tonight, but we're going to kind of give you the preview of where we're at with everything. So just Susan Willis, our CFO, has used the timeline format to remind us about where we've been with the budget, so I thought we would do the same thing with the strategic plan. So in July, when I took over as superintendent, you all said we want a revised and updated strategic plan by December of 2023. So we are on track to make that happen. So we started that work in July. In August, we created our planning team, which was a 60-member plus team of about half community, half internal stakeholders. We have community members who are parents, industry leaders, nonprofit leaders, elected officials, and then we have internal staff who are clerical staff and paras and special education teachers and assistant principals and really every kind of job we have in the district. So that group has really been guiding the work so far. Internally, then, we have a 12-member core team that is represented by most of our different DLT operational areas, from curriculum to facilities to transportation, et cetera. In August and then in September, we brought to you the mission and vision and shared beliefs. And then in September, we started our listening sessions. So we hosted 13 different in-person listening sessions with different stakeholder groups. We invited teachers, we invited retired teachers, parents, community members, industry leaders, and DLT members. So all sorts of different, again, types of people we wanted to hear from. We really want to embed this work in the community of Wichita, and so that's what we were trying to listen for. All of that information I shared with you, the big report that I'm sure you read cover to cover last board meeting, but that information that we got from that process was really fruitful and telling us, yes, you're on the right track in these areas might need a little tweak, and these other areas, there's a hole or there's something we need to improve on. And right now, we're in November, so this is Student Success Outcomes, which is a direct result of all of that feedback. We will, at the end, talk to you about what comes in December, because what we'll share tonight are outcomes, they're not goals, but this is really the framework that we want to work towards developing metrics and numbers before or for December, but kind of want to get your blessing that we have the right three goals to launch us forward. So with that, I'll hand it over to Gil.
Thank you, Kelly. The early work that we did with the strategic plan was with our vision and our mission. So as Mr. Bielefeld talked about in August and September, the 60 plan team or the committee looked at and updated our vision and our mission, and we brought that to you for approval. One of the great things that occurred with our vision is the board had recommended, how do we tie in just an individual success? How do we tie it into the greater community or taking it out to the community? So what has been approved is the Wichita Public Schools will be the premier district of choice and inspire each student and staff member to thrive and become future ready within the greater community. So that is our current vision that has been adopted. The second part of the strategic plan was the mission, and that mission speaks to the Wichita Public Schools, prepares each student to achieve readiness for life, college, and career through an innovative and impactful educational experience. And being part of that 60-member team and being there listening to a lot of the great collaboration and feedback that was given throughout this process has been tremendous. Now, it was difficult trying to tailor it down because there was a lot of voices there that was sharing some great things, and I know we couldn't do everything that everybody wanted, but we came out with a great vision and mission. So we're excited that we have those two currently for our strategic plan, which now is going to turn us into what are our outcomes, student success outcomes and goals we're going to look at for our new strategic plan.
So that brings us to the 24-29 strategic plan, the student success outcomes. So after some revision and some conversation and collaboration and putting all brilliant minds together, this is what we came up with, and it really was a work of a team working through this. Wichita Public Schools will thrive in innovative and impactful educational communities that do these three things. They increase academic achievement and graduation, the graduation rate. They prepare students for life, college, and career success, and they create and enhance safety and belonging. So part of the initial statement there is tying into our mission and vision, that we want students and staff to thrive. We don't want them to just pass by the skin of their teeth, right? We want to picture a thriving plant versus just a plant that might be like the plant that I would grow that's, kind of wilting and in the corner and needs some water and love. We want plants that thrive. We want plants that really grow and they're exceeding their potential. So that's what we want from our students too, right? Our staff. We want them to exceed their potential. We want them to really thrive. in innovative and impactful educational communities. So we deliberately picked the term educational communities because that has a particular meaning for the team. This is not just classrooms. Of course, classrooms are the main place of education, but we see our hallways and our buses, our internships that Israel does, right? We are in educational communities all over our school day. In the cafeteria, it's an educational community. There's things that we can learn about social skills and working together and all those life readiness things that we want kids to get. So when we think of what we're trying to do, we're trying to create these thriving educational communities for kids that are innovative and impactful, and we'll know we're doing that through these outcomes, through student achievement and graduation rate, through life, college, and career success, or preparing students for life, college, and career success, and then creating and enhancing safety and belonging. So in December, we will bring back to you some, what we call in our 40X language, X to Y by when, so some specific measurable goals. For the first one, we have those. We don't necessarily have it's settled exactly which metrics we're going to follow, but we have student achievement data. We know where we're at. We know where we'd like to go. We have graduation rate data. We know where we're at. We know where we'd like to go. For the red box there in the middle, we need some definition. We need to work on how we track that and how we define that. Loudly and clearly from our community, we hear we want students that are ready for life after high school. We want students who show up on time. We want students who are respectful to authority. We want students who can work in a team and problem solve. But we don't necessarily have the data to back up how we know we're doing that, at least not on November 13th. So we're going to work on that one and bring back in December something a little more tangible in that area. For the blue one, or the light blue one there, create and enhance safety and belonging. You know, we already do a lot with safety. So we don't feel like we need to create everywhere. Some of the things we need to do with safety is really just to maintain what we have and to enhance it possibly. But there's other places where we might need to use a new technology or to come up with a different way to make kids feel not just physically safe, but emotionally safe in our classrooms. And that emotionally safe really brings us to that sense of belonging. We want every school and every student in those schools to feel like they belong. We want every staff member in those schools to feel like they belong. And that's another goal area that I think we can get that data. I think we can find some tools to use that. But that's become a little bit more complicated because the way we used to collect that through surveys of students, there's a few more hoops to jump through than there used to be. So that's a little bit why we wanted to bring you these 3 outcomes statements tonight, knowing that in December there will be measurable data points to go along with them. So we still have some work to do as a team. We allowed people to jump off the merry-go-round if they wanted to, but if they want to stay on for another few weeks, we're going to have team members that are going to help with this too. So this is what we settled on as a committee, as a group. I feel like this really reflects the listening sessions that we conducted, what we heard from those groups. This reflects the planning team and what they felt we heard from those listening sessions, and I think it also honors the strategic plan that we've had in place the last 5 years.
So what are our next steps? Our next steps, and you heard Kelly kind of share that the key outcome measures prior to December 11th, so there's more work to do to make sure that we do have the specific measures that we're looking for. I've heard the board talk about too, what are the academic outcomes that we're going to hold ourselves to make sure that our students are improving and succeeding. The approval will be on December 11th, so we're going to approve the 24 through 29 Every Student Future Ready Strategic Plan. We'll bring that back on December 11th for approval. But the key too is in spring of 2024, we're going to look at specifically the lead measures. So we may have the lag measures or the outcomes, but what then are we going to do specifically in order to leverage and get to those successful outcomes? So those lead measures or progress monitoring goals and action plans we'll be working on through the school year, specifically even into the spring of 2024, to make sure that we're ready for our system to start working on those things needed in order to reach the goals that we have set for our new strategic plan. So we do want to launch this strategic plan when school begins this fall. That's fall of 2024. So we're ready to go at the beginning of the school year where every level can feel like they have ownership and part of the strategic plan for the success of our students. So that brings us to the end. If there's any questions or discussion or clarifications that is needed from the board, we're here to answer those.
I'd like to begin with just a couple of things. First of all, I know we have some committee members in the audience. We invited the committee to come if they could. And so if you served on the group of 60 people that helped us in the community, Diane and I were on as the board representatives, but anybody that's here tonight, would you please stand so that we can thank you and welcome you? I would also like to send a big thank you out to everyone who responded to us through our surveys, through our meetings, through going in on the web and adding information. All that information was powerful and it helped guide us. So we appreciate all that input from the people in the community. Just for the board's sake, first of all, our queue is working, so you can put your names up on it if you want to speak. It's been broken, but it's fixed tonight. But the board's responsibility as a board, we approve the vision and the mission, which we've already done, and then we approve the goals that are set, which are these 3 goals that are boxed in. And then we begin to work with the administration on the pieces that fit underneath those. But our work kind of stops with the goals, moves to administration, and they're including us, but it's not really our work nor approval. So just so that we're clear as a board what we're doing, we're looking at these goals. We will not approve them tonight. They'll be approved in December, but that's kind of where we are in the process. So with that said, Diane.
Thank you for the presentation tonight, gentlemen. Superintendent Bielefeld, could you explain more about how we're going to display this information back to the public?
Yeah, so the plan would be that, again, once we have the data metrics figured out, that we create a dashboard, a public-facing dashboard that shows everybody, anybody who's interested, you know, that this is where we stand, this is where we're at on all of these goals. We've done that with you all over the past 5 years, kind of these, you know, yearly updates at board meetings, but this would be kind of a standalone, always available sort of a thing to say, here's how we're doing as a district. That would also incorporate some of the progress monitoring measures or some of the lead measures to show, here's how we're getting there. Here's the things that we're tracking in order to get there. So we want something that the public can see, that people can say, you know, here's you know, the outcomes that I can expect as a parent from my own kid who goes to school there, or here's the outcome I can expect as a taxpayer, because I may not have kids in school, but I want to know my tax money is getting well spent. I truly believe if we do these 3 things with every graduate from Wichita Public Schools, our taxpayers will be very happy with us.
And can you tell us about what the progress monitoring will look like throughout that next strategic plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it depends on the box a little bit here, because I think that middle box is probably going to take a little bit of understanding to make sure we're defining correctly what it is we want to track. But for those other ones, I think it'll be fairly straightforward that, you know, like, for example, graduation rate, we have ways that we can track if students are on track for graduation. We know some of the early indicators, the warning signs of a kid being not on track for graduation. So we can use those as progress monitoring points to hopefully, if we increase the likelihood that a student will graduate through data, right, we know then that they'll be more likely to get across the stage at graduation. So those would be some examples of what we might have. We need you know, students that are academically ready and life ready for whatever they want to do after high school. So they need to have the academic skills. We'll be tracking that all the way up, and they need to have the life skills of, like I mentioned, you know, showing up to work, being ready for their job. You know, in Graduation Plus, you've seen us track the market value assets. The state's calling those post-secondary assets. And not to steal any of Lauren and Holly's thunder, they're up next. But that's now part of graduation requirements. So there was a little bit of discussion in our talk about, in the old plan, Goal 1 and Goal 3, we should combine those together because it's already a requirement for graduation. But this wasn't intentional. But Israel being here tonight, I think, really shows us how that prepared for life, college, and career success. The more market value assets a kid gets, the more ready they are, right? He has college credit. He has an internship. He works at the Lord's Diner, right? He's involved in student organizations. So the more and more of those that any student gets, the better off they're going to be. So that's part of what it'll look like to be life ready in high school, is to have maybe 10, maybe 15 different market value assets, that you're playing sports and you're part of the band and you're in esports and you volunteer at youth group or whatever, all of those different kinds of things. The more that any kid does, the more likely they are to be successful after high school. So,
Very good, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. I'm seeing no other questions. Great presentation, and we'll have a chance to digest this and talk about it some more next month. So thank you very much. Thank you also. This has been yeoman's task. You were charged as the new superintendent coming in July to have a new strategic plan ready to go by the next year. That's not an easy thing to do. We're halfway there now, and you've got a lot of work to do in the spring, but we'll be real happy and watching carefully as it moves forward. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
well, thank you.
Next item.
Next item, graduation requirement changes for the class of 2028.
Hey, welcome, ladies. You're bringing us what the state has changed and how we're going to fit into that, right?
That's right.
Thank you so much.
There we go. All right, Patrick is passing out some handouts and notes from the presentation for you. Good evening, President Logan, Vice President Albert, Superintendent Bielefeld, members of the board. I am Lauren Hatfield, the Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Schools, and my partner this evening,
Holly Ingram, Executive Director of Secondary Curriculum and Instruction.
And we're here to talk to you this evening about the changing graduation requirements for the class of 2028. So I will do a brief intro and overview. Holly will dive into some of the specifics related to credits, and including explaining kind of the structure of the presentation to make it make sense. And then I'll pop back in towards the end for a summary. So Holly's doing the heavy lifting. I'm just here mainly to steer the PowerPoint, to be totally honest with you. Holly's done most of the heavy lifting for this entire process. So. Back when we gave you an update on strategic plan goal number 1 earlier this semester, which might feel like 6 lifetimes ago, we brought this definition to you then. And this is the definition from the Kansas State Board of Education and the definition of a successful high school graduate. So as we're talking about this, we thought it was important to bring this definition back and consider why might the Kansas State Department of Education have changed or be changing graduation requirements in the future. And if you read through the list of what they want students to have, including in the attainment of an industry recognized certification or in the workforce without the need for remediation, you are going to see this definition reflected in the changes that the State Board of Education is recommending. So we just wanted to bring this definition back to the surface because I think this is a great lens to understand why the state is changing the graduation requirements for all students throughout Kansas. So super quick overview, because this is one of the things where as people start to get a hold of it, they start asking a million questions and maybe get a little nervous. And so we want to put some nerves to bed right here at the beginning. So who does this impact? This starts with the class of 2028, which is hard to believe, but those are current 8th grade students. So the reason we're bringing this to you now is we need this policy to be policy before those students hit high school, because we don't want to change the rules of the game once they've already started the game, right? And so that's why the timing is what the timing is because this impacts current 8th grade students. So anyone that is currently in high school will still be under the current graduation requirements. All students who enter high school next year will be under these new requirements. Okay. Currently, Wichita Public Schools requires 23 credits to graduate. Is that number changing? No, we are not looking at that number changing. We are just packaging that number 23 differently than how it's currently packaged. So we're looking at the number of credits staying the same, but how those credits are packaged to be different. We'll put a little asterisk on that as well, because the state is also requiring something besides credits, but we'll get there. Don't want to spoil the ending. Okay. And then what changes to the requirements will you see? You will see changes in the areas of English communications. You will see changes in the areas of STEM, changes in the areas of PE health, and changes in the area related to post-secondary assets. And the rest of the presentation is really going to dive into the nuance of those changes. Just wanted to give you a brief, broad overview before we dive in. Okay. All right. Holly, your turn.
So a few handouts. The fact sheet is the document from KSDE that outlines their verbiage for this. It's kind of always changing, so don't look at the date because it says September 2021, as well as a frequently asked question. So as districts like ours and others across the state have reached out for clarifications, they add to this FAQ document. You'll see a November 3rd date. So like we check it pretty regular to see if there's new guidance. Most of it is just how do we count this? What does this need to be? So it's really not changing the overall things that are going to be in our policy tonight, but it allows us to know some of the processes we need to have in place for these students. So those are just some documents you can come back to as we look through this. So the first thing that's changing, it's been 4 English credits in high school since I graduated. I don't know how long it was before that. But the big change there is now they are asking for a semester or a 0.5 credit of communications for the new students, which again, as Dr. Hatfield referenced in that successful graduate, I think we all know it's more than just writing papers and reading literature, which is a skill we all need, but also having those communication skills both in the workplace and in college. So that is a fairly large change for us. We've offered communication classes for a long time, but now it being required for students to be able to graduate. So that's the first large change.
Holly, before we dive further, can you explain just kind of the columns on the chart, just so, because my mind is weird and everyone's mind might not work like my mind, so to help make that make sense and why things are maybe in different colors.
Sure. So the first column is what we have for our kids currently in high school, what's required of the state, what we require in our current policy. The middle is what KSDE is asking to be changed and requiring to be changed, the State Board of Education. And then the last column references the places in the policy. We all love reading board policy, so you can see what paragraph or number that change is reflected in. So current students, first column, what we must change from the state, and then where you'll see that in the updated policy. So after communications, they are bucketing, if you will, society and humanities together. We have required 3 credits of social studies. We have required 1 credit of fine arts. It is remaining the same. That number is not changing. However, we have an asterisk that we'll come back to around the social studies piece specifically, because we've been a little more prescriptive on how our students get those 3, that we would like to adjust to give students a little more flexibility with the changing requirements. So we'll come back to that in a little bit. Then the next bucket, KSD has titled STEM, so it's kind of putting math, science, and all STEM classes together. You'll see that math is remaining 3 credits, science is remaining 3 credits, but a change for us is a STEM elective. We have required, I believe the board changed this, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, to have a requirement of a 0.5 of CTE. Wichita's kind of been ahead of the game. Now the state's saying, hey, we need to do that as well. However, they're being a little more specific about what that is. We have just said any CTE class. They're saying an advanced class. We'll talk a little bit about what that means as well. So we're recommending to take off that 0.5 because of the required 1.0 of the STEM elective. The third handout we gave you is a credit sheet if you want to look at that. So on the back of it that goes landscape, talks about what that STEM credit must be. It is an advanced science or math class, meaning there's a prerequisite, so it'd be a 4th credit in science or math. We only require 3, or an application level CTE pathway course. And so you can see all the pathways we offer, and then their application level courses in that. So it's not just any CTE class, it's the application level, which means you had to have taken a technical level class before you take the application level class. And a full 1.0 credit in that, or they could take a 4th math or a 4th science.
So just to reiterate how huge that is, right? In order to get that STEM credit, the state's definition is a 4th credit of math means you can check the STEM box. A 4th credit of science means you could check the STEM box, or one of those application level classes. But you can't get to senior year and go, oh shoot, I need a STEM credit. Because to take the application level class, you've got to take the intro and the technical first, right? Or you've had to already have 3 credits of science, or you already have to have 3 credits of math so that you can get the 4th credit. So that definition of what meets STEM is a little more narrow, is significantly more narrow than what we've been calling CTE this entire time.
So then the next bucket is employability and life skills. So we currently have a full year of physical education we've required for our students. And again, Wichita's been ahead of the game. Our class is actually called PE Foundations in Health. The state is saying you need a semester of PE and a semester of health. It's not a huge change for our teachers. We're kind of having to realign some curriculum because we've been teaching them in tandem, but we have to track them separately, some back-end work with the counselors. But so it'll be a semester of PE, a semester of health for that. But again, still a full 1.0. It's just now split out into 2 half credits. Again, we've been ahead of the curve. We've been requiring financial literacy since I think 2012 or 16, quite some time. Now the state is saying we need financial literacy. So we don't have to make a change there. We have to do some back-end change of how it's tracked, but we've already been offering that. And then the number of electives from the state, that's kind of where our number is different. So we have said 7 elective credits. To get to the state number of 21, it's 4.5. Ours is going to move by recommendation to a 6.5, and that's because of that STEM that was CTE that's moved somewhere else. That's kind of where that difference is coming from. Okay?
So now we're going to dive into so you have all these credits, but it's still not enough portion. So the state says you have to have these 21 credits. We say 23 credits. How we package them is going to look different. And we've been talking about Graduation Plus for a few years and wanting to increase the number of students that graduate with a post-secondary asset. Well, the state is now saying you've got to have 2 post-secondary assets to graduate from high school. So in addition to the 23 credits, you must also have 2 post-secondary assets to graduate from high school. So currently, we are encouraging students to earn post-secondary assets, but it's not a graduation requirement. I can graduate without having any of those. Starting with the class of 2028, you cannot graduate unless you have 2. Well, what's on the list? Here is currently, this is also on your frequently asked questions document for future reference. This is currently the list from the State Board of Education of what will count as a post-secondary asset. Every single student has to have 2 things off of this list. Right? So we've got our scout troop behind us working on some merit badges, right? You will notice that Eagle Scout or Gold Scout is one of the things on the list, right? As you look through this list, you might go, what does this mean, right? There are some things that are pretty easy to figure out what that means. Seal of biliteracy, you either have the seal of biliteracy or you don't have the seal of biliteracy, right? But some things that maybe generate questions. What does 2 or more high school athletics and activities mean? Does that mean KSHA athletics activities? Does that mean any athletic activity? Does that mean I can be in the chess club and that counts as 1? Do I have to be in there for a year? Do I have to be in there for a semester? So some of the work that we're gonna have to do is locally determine what that means within the parameters of what's on this list. The list is the list, but then we have some local control of defining each of the individual pieces that's on the list. Okay. So our Graduation Plus gears, Tim, way back when we talked about this presentation, again, might have been 6 lifetimes ago, but was really September, I think. He talked about we might need to add some more gears. Yeah, we're going to need to add some more gears, right? You look at that list, we're going to need to add some more gears to what we've been calling Graduation Plus, but the state is now calling post-secondary assets. So we're going to start shifting our language to post-secondary assets so that we don't confuse people. What's a market value asset? What's a post-secondary? We're going to start using post-secondary assets because that's the language and the terminology from the State Department of Education, and we don't need to make things any more confusing than they already are. So some additional notes and pieces, and then some future work that we have to do. So Holly will cover the additional notes.
So as I referenced earlier, we don't have to change anything about social studies based on the number, but we have been more prescriptive than we're required to be around social studies. We have said you must take a 0.5 of world history, a full year of US 1, a full year of US 2, and a 0.5 of government. As we sat and looked at these STEM electives, we're like, we need some schedule flexibility for students. So what we're proposing is we're still going to require a semester of world history, still require a semester of government, a full year of US history, but now how I get that third has some choice for students. It could be a combination of 2 semester classes, it could be another full year class, an AP class, things like that. But as we looked at how do we help kids create some opportunities when I've got 2 twin boys who are 8th graders, so this matters to the Ingram household. When they don't know as freshmen what they want to do, and my sophomore and junior year I'm starting to figure it out, we might still be playing catch up on some of these other things. So that's why we're making that recommendation to change social studies. We don't have to from the state. As well as we looked at what other districts do, this is going to make it a little easier as we think about that non-resident enrollment. Students who transfer in, our counselors tell Dr. Hatfield and myself how hard it is, particularly around social studies, when we have students transfer in their junior year because they don't have what matches our graduation requirements. So I think it'll actually make it a little easier when we hopefully attract some of those students who want to come into the great opportunities we have in Wichita. Additionally, because of some of the changes that are coming, particularly around that English and communications, in order to kind of get some things in line in some classes, we really wanted to, we were pretty narrow about how students could get English 4. So going ahead and putting some semester options in for our current students as our teachers get ready for that. So you'll see in the policy some just recommended changes as we get ready for that for current students. There was 1 million course codes in this policy. You all don't need to know what those course codes mean. We have to change course codes way too often for way too many reasons, and we don't have to come back to you every time 2111 changes to 2115. You don't want to have to do that. So we just were like, the course codes don't have to be in here. And then altering that elective language. There used to be all these categories spelled out. How our system works, if I already have my communications credit and I take speech 2, it counts as an elective. We don't have to say these are my electives because we might offer a class in 3 years that no longer falls in one of those buckets. So we didn't need to have, the policy's long enough, so let's shorten it. So that's why you'll see a few of those other changes.
And then some future work that we have to do. You thought you'd seen the end of us, but you haven't. There are 14 other Board of Education policies that either explicitly or implicitly reference graduation and graduation requirements. So we will be reviewing, actually have started reviewing all 14 of those. There are absolutely 6 of them that we have to bring you because they won't be correct anymore with the new requirements in there. So that is some of the future work that we'll have to do. There's a lot of work that needs to be done around the post-secondary assets. We need to locally generate clarity around the definitions of those post-secondary assets. That's where most of the questions come in. We have to figure out some sort of tracking mechanism for the post-secondary assets because how do I know Timmy has 40 hours of community service? How do I track that? Where do I track that? I'm not tracking it for, 3 kids. We're tracking it for 13,000 kids. And so we have to generate tracking mechanisms for those post-secondary assets. And then we've got to do a lot of communication with stakeholders. Holly and I have been eat, sleep, and breathing this policy for over a year now. But most people haven't, and so how do we get this information into digestible chunks for the people that it will impact the most, which is our community, our students, and then our building staff. So in summary, it's still 23. We put them up there. You can add them all up. Hopefully the math is good. If not, you need to take away my math certification. They're still both 23. How it looks is different, and then 23 with an asterisk because you still need 2 post-secondary assets. The 23 in and of itself is not enough, starting with the class of 2028. And we just love the picture of the kids in their colorful caps and gowns. So this is our "Do you have questions for us" slide because that's just joy in a picture right there.
We do have questions for you. Diane.
Sure you do. Thank you for your presentation this evening. You talked about the changes in the social studies, and so I'm sure people would want to know, are there any curriculum changes or are there just flexibility being built in?
Not significant. There's a couple new courses that there's an AP course that we would be adding. Most of them are current textbooks support already. As well as we have some online options that are already available that we haven't tapped into as well. So I won't be coming back to ask you for money for curriculum for social studies because I kept saying that. I was like, the well is drying up. We can't buy more curriculum. So no. So when we purchased for social studies, I believe 3 or 4 years ago, because of the scope of history textbooks, we're not actually covering all of it. So most of the electives are still American history based, and they're going to cover some of the pieces we're not able to cover in some of the other courses, or we already have some things that we just haven't been utilizing, or they've been electives that we could offer. They just weren't counting as social studies credits before.
Okay. And then the change in the English, that was the same when I was in high school as well. It was always 4 credits of English. So I just want to state what the half credit for communications, those classes are, that are listed on the fact sheet that you provided for us, and that's speech, debate, forensics, journalism, and public speaking. And where would you send people if they would like to request more information about this?
So on this sheet that has kind of the credits, it's going to spell out the more specific course titles, and we're going to start, once this policy is approved, keeping this list on the district website as well as our building websites, not just for these buckets. These were the ones that were changing that were put on here, but just our math, our science, whatever, so we can go on there at any time. Does this count for math? Does this count for science? Because there's a lot of courses we offer. So we'll kind of maintain that through the district website as well as have buildings linked to it as well.
So they could go to our search bar on our district website and type in high school graduation requirement course credits.
I'll have to work with the strategic communications department on what they should search, but yes, we will keep it on there. Hopefully that they'd search graduation requirements and that'd be there.
Okay, and one more question. If people would like to ask someone questions, where would they go to find answers? Like, who would they speak with?
Questions specific to the policy, what classes my students.
Classes.
The
So they just
building
watch this.
counselors.
They're building
Yes,
counselors.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, ladies.
Okay, and just to follow up a little bit with Diane, I assume that we are working with our building counselors so that they understand this and what exactly is changing for our new 8th graders
Yeah,
incoming.
our building counselors are probably sick of me and or Holly because every time they have a counselor meeting, one of us is there and we're talking about this specific thing. So at some point, they're going to probably boo us off the stage at those meetings, but they have seen one or both of us at every single meeting, and they will continue to see that because this is a pretty massive undertaking, and we need to make sure we get kids in the correct classes right away.
Okay. And second question, on the individual policies that need to change, when would the board expect to see those coming back to us?
Well, so the actual policy 6333, which is the policy where the graduation requirements are listed, it is on the agenda for later this evening.
Right.
Under consent. As you know, because this is a required change, you could adopt that policy tonight, or you could choose to say we're going to do another read in December. If you choose to adopt it tonight, our goal is to bring that next flight of policies to you in December.
In December?
If you don't, if you want to do a second read and we don't adopt the new 6333 until December, then our goal would be to bring it to you in January. So our goal is a 1 meeting turnaround time. We've done enough pre-work to feel like we could pull that off.
Okay, and tonight, the policy that we're approving really is driven by state law. So we don't have a whole lot of choice. We might not like it, but guess what? We're being told we have to do it, correct?
Correct. There are a couple of things that we could hash it out about if we needed to, but almost everything is we have to change this. So there's not really, we can talk about it, but it's not going to change the fact that we have to have it in there.
Right. We'd just be prolonging the agony by carrying it out.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The
Okay,
counselors
Stan?
might come if you take too long. No, I'm just kidding.
Santa won't come, right?
That's true.
Stan?
Let me follow up on that. If we did this the normal way and did it first read tonight, and we passed it in the second read in December, that wouldn't mess up your timetable too much, would it?
No, we want this in policy by January because
That's what
the kids
I'm
are going to
saying.
start enrolling.
And the only reason I say that is because since this is a lot to digest, it probably would best, at least I would lean towards saying, let's do a first read tonight and final second read in December. But that's not really my question. I just want to make sure I'm clear on a few things. The state is increasing, we're already at 23.
Yes.
The state's increasing from 21 to 23.
No, the state is also staying at 21.
Oh, the state is staying
The
at
state
21.
is staying at 21. They are just
They're just changing the, okay, got it. All
they're
right.
just repackaging that 21, just like we're repackaging the 23.
I'm glad I asked that question. I was just going to clarify what Diane put broad categories, and then I think somebody read off the list, but I wanted to, for the general public, I wanted to read off the list one more time. The communications half credit, and is this the courses, or is there a possibility of adding to these courses or subtracting from these courses?
So part of the reason there are several times in the policy that we wrote the list will be maintained on the district website, and part of the reason we did that is because it changes so much that, like Holly said, we didn't want to have to keep coming, oh, but this is different, oh, this is different, oh, this is different. And so it could change, but there are communications standards that have to be met through that communications class. So this list is every current class that we offer that hits all of the communications standards that we have to cover to give the communications credit. So could we add more? We could, but we'd have to make sure that those
They met the
classes
requirement.
meet those standards. Yeah.
And those courses, again, are professional communications, public speaking, which I think is critical because almost every college a program requires this now. Competitive debate. Now, you don't have to take all of these. These are the options you have. Competitive speech and acting, which is formerly called forensics, 21st century journalism, business communication, and media public relations. So that's what we are going to be offering for students to get that half credit, basically one semester course. Okay. And then I'm a little confused about the STEM. I thought I understood it until you said they can't just take a course listed on the STEM credit list before they take a couple or one preliminary course.
So if you look at the fact sheet, the third big bullet and then the third bullet under that reads 1 unit of STEM elective, computer science, advanced math, advanced science, robotics, advanced CTE, advanced technology. Pretty much all of those classes other than math or science are in the CTE world. So then when you look at the FAQ of what does advanced CTE mean, that's where they spell out an application level. So an advanced math or science means something with a prerequisite. So
And this is the list of the applications.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it can't just be my sister was the business teacher, Intro to Business Essentials. That's my intro class. I need to go on after Business Essentials and potentially take investing or advanced business development to get that application level.
So you're going to have to take an application level to get that STEM credit.
Or a
Or-
fourth math
or fourth-
a fourth science.
Or fourth science. And then if you decide to stay at 3 at math and 3 at science, or one or the other, does it have to?
You don't have to do both.
You
It's
wouldn't
an
have to do
or
both. So
statement.
so if you decide to do 3 science and 4 math,
You're good.
You're still going to need okay. But if you decide to take 3 math and 3 science, then you are going to have to get that one credit.
Advanced CTE. Yes.
Okay, and then you mentioned on here that the STEM credit was 0.5, not 1, but all the courses list 1 credit.
They have to get a full 1.0 credit of it. We used to have a 0.5 of CTE that we required, but they could take any CTE class. So our current kids have to get a 0.5 of any CTE class to graduate currently.
So you can see why I think it's important to only do this as a first read this week. Okay, so. Okay, I was mixing up my columns. Okay, so what we're requiring right now is 0.5 elective credits of CTE, and we are going to 1 credit as STEM. But again, to get that 1 credit as STEM, you may have to take 1 or 2 courses before you can take that application STEM course to get you that graduation credit. Is that correct?
Yes, which is exactly why we were like, whoo, we got to change, we got to create some flexibility somewhere because it's going to take some work to get
And
that
that's-
STEM credit.
And that was my final question. So with your electives being 6.5, you're almost going to need to take a credit of preliminary STEM in order to get you that 1 credit of STEM, correct?
Yeah, so there's 3 ways to get the STEM credit. Number 1, get a fourth math credit.
Right.
Number 2, get a fourth science credit.
Right.
Number 3, get that advanced CTE course. So if you get your STEM credit through the CTE route, yes, you're going to need a couple of classes of pre-STEM classes to get the STEM
And those
credit.
pre-STEM courses are going to have to come out of this 6.5
Yes.
electives.
Yes.
Okay. So is that going to, let's say I'm an 8th grader and I say I'm going to do 3 math and 3 science. I'm interested in, I'm just first one I see, construction. And I work my way up to where I'm going to get that 1 credit in construction, or 2 semesters, 1 credit in construction. That then meets that requirement. But then I'm going to have to get, if there are some prelim courses I need to take before I take that 1 credit, I'm going to have to take two courses out of that 6.5 electives. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
And,
then
our,
okay.
and our students, I don't know how many credits they can actually get, but the majority of our students graduate with 28. So they actually have
Yes.
lots more electives than needed. So, and another piece we're doing kind of as that next step is for each of these pathways, creating kind of an articulation plan. If I want to go do ag, what would I need to take all 4 years to get to that application level before I graduate? So students can kind of use that to help guide them through that process.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that is something that most people don't understand, is that most our graduates do end up graduating before, because what I'm thinking of is a scenario of, let's say I set up my schedule, and I'm going to take my 1 STEM in construction. I set up my schedule where make sure I get my preliminary courses done so I can take my 1 STEM credit. But let's say after my junior year, I say construction is not for me. I'm far more interested in marketing. And is that going to create me going back, getting those 2 credits so I can take the marketing STEM credit? And so I'll probably end up with 25. My point is, are we putting a little bit too much pressure on students very early in 8th grade, 9th grade to determine what their career path may be?
So so the 2 pre-classes are called intro level classes and then technical level class before you take an application level class. You could
Say
take
that again. So
intro,
it's intro,
then technical, then application.
and then application. Okay.
So what the big giant list you have are application classes.
Right.
A student could, depending on the pathway, take the intro and the technical class their junior year to then take the application class their senior year. Some of them, they would have to do it sophomore, junior,
Is there,
and then senior year.
and I apologize, Cheryl, for so many questions on this, but so is there an advantage then to perhaps hold off? If you're the type of guy that I was in high school, I was like, I'm going to get that credit. You know, I'm not going to do 26 credits when I only needed 23. You shouldn't laugh so hard. Is it to the advantage to hold off on your STEM decision till your junior year? I mean, it sounds like I'm just trying to help anybody that don't want to make a decision too early and then end up having to take a lot more courses.
Or change their mind every 6 weeks like
Yes.
my children.
And like I
So-
did, I'm still trying to decide what my pathway would be.
Right. So one thing to note, and neither of us are skilled enough to throw these out, many of our intro courses are intro to multiple pathways.
That helps.
So the great thing about our CTE teachers is in those intro classes, they then expose the students to this marketing pathway or this business pathway, things like that. So then the kid better understands which leg of this path of this after this intro course I want to take, because even my 2 children, I'm like, please go talk to that CTE teacher, decide which, like they're going to have a better understanding, those teachers, the pathways, and our CTE team made these really awesome videos for all of our pathways of kids in our classes to kind of use for marketing. So that I think will also help, that it's not just a one-to-one. This intro only takes me this one way. A few of them might be that way. I don't know CTE that deeply, but there's a lot of those intro courses that can let you go multiple ways.
Well, thank you, Holly, because that clears it up. If those intro courses are applicable to more than just one pathway or one application course, then that will solve a lot of those type of problems. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ernestine?
I want to compliment all of you Boy Scouts up there. I could see some of your eyes just rolling in your head, and I don't wonder because my eyes were rolling in my head too as we were going through this thing. You are really good citizens. You've just hung in here with us. We thank you for that. I want to, so we have had the requirement to have a CTE. Will that go away as a requirement from us to have a career in technical education class?
Yes. So what is currently a half of CTE will become 1.0 STEM, and so then we will drop elective by
So
a half.
they could then take science and math and not take a career course at all that we've got set up with these wonderful career pathways.
It's possible, yes.
Okay.
But I will say, not probable. Our students are usually beaten down the door to get
take the-
into
okay.
CTE pathways.
Okay, and I see all of these social studies options. Now, I guess it was about 2020, wasn't that when we voted on what was the change of the name of the mascot for North High? But at that time, one of the committee that studied that made a recommendation that we, because Wichita is so much on the land that was Native American, that was indigenous Native American Indians, that we have a course in Native American history. I notice that's not on here, but I just want to have suggestion that be put in there. Indigenous history is certainly one that is pretty vital. You're smiling.
I am smiling. Superintendent Bielefeld reached out to my team to begin working on a course of that nature, which I should.
Wahoo! All right.
I should have the policy memorized, but we would bucket it under that U.S. history. Like once the course is developed, we could still have it count towards that. Since we don't have it developed, we don't want to tell people it's
Right.
not there yet. So
Right.
there is some work being done around that.
Okay. And the only other one that I would like to have a civics course, but I'm not going to beat the drum on that one. Oh, beat the drum.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just have one more question, and it's generated from the questions page, which is the fact sheet on the back side of it. And it talks about high school credit taken in 8th grade. And I know many of our students take Algebra 1 in 8th grade now. And will that, with this new change, will that Algebra 1 that they take in 8th grade count towards high school credit?
So we currently have a board policy that does not allow students to earn high school credit for courses they take in middle school.
But we are going to be changing policies.
We can.
Would the
If
state allow us to do that?
The state will allow us to do that. Our current board policy does not allow us to do that.
But
So
we're
if-
going to be changing board policies.
So if you were telling me, Lauren, you better look at that policy, we can certainly do that. Currently, it is not something that we can grant them.
Yeah, but
That
that may help with this
So-
whole problem of aligning CTE and everything else, because they're taking the same course that they would take as a freshman, but they're taking it in 8th grade.
Yeah, and there is some nuance to it. It's not as clean as you think that it is, right? Because if I'm only certified to teach 6-8, and then the kids in my class can't get the Algebra 1 credit because I'm not certified for the high school level.
Yep.
Right? So
Because
there,
they said
there-
it has to be the same count as high school credit if they have the same as a high school course.
Right, so the teacher of the course, even though they're a middle school teacher, would have to be certified in high school, whatever the subject is. So it seems like it should be super clean, like, oh, change that policy, now all these kids can get credit. It's just not as clean as it seems. That doesn't mean we can't do it, it's just not super clean.
Yeah, well, and we just may want to think about that. Okay, Julie?
Yeah, we've had a great presentation, lots of good questions and discussion. I'd just like to point out one more thing that you guys spoke about, and that is if you pull up slide 9, we now have the 2 requirements for the post-secondary assets, and I think this is a really big, I don't know what the right term to use is, but it's really a big, great list. There are lots of opportunities, lots of different ways that our kids can get those post-secondary assets. And so I just wanted the crowd and the TV to see once again this list of those opportunities for those post-secondary assets.
Hazel?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. This is very intricate, and there's a lot of different roads to take. My question is, when will we start to educate our 8th graders as to these changes and their families about new expectations? When will that process begin?
You want to go or you want me to go? As soon as you approve the policy. We've already begun sharing it with our principals and counselors, but then their kind of pre-enrollment time begins in January, February. So we want to have some things we send out to all 8th grade families at the start of second semester as we get some documents made around this, be able to have that posted on the website, things like that. So most of our schools know it's coming, and we just haven't hit go until we have it in policy, because unfortunately most of the questions are more process questions than policy questions. But if we don't have the policy in place, answering the process questions is just kind of spinning our wheels. So once we have that policy finalized from you all, then we'll start in January with families and kids.
So how will we have continued education? I mean, because in 8th grade, they'll go to 9th grade, and then every year it could change and their pathways could change. So how will we continue with education, and how will we do that to reach students and families?
So we have time built in with our students that they work on their individual plan of study. And so in that, we will upload the new graduation requirements. So they have time in middle school, they start looking at individual plan of study. Then as they go into their freshman year, they select their courses that way. So it'll just be an ongoing process, the same way we have done enrollment with kids in the past. Now we're also going to be talking more about these post-secondary assets. Hopefully we'll have our CTE teachers drumming up business for their pathways to get that STEM elective like we've done in the past. But now it's, hey, we got to go all the way to the end of the pathway versus just the beginning of it.
Okay, thank you.
Diane?
I apologize for asking one more question, but it's been mentioned a couple of times that the state requires 21 credits and 259 requires 23 credits. So without taking too long to explain, can you quickly go over why there's more credits required at 259?
So currently, a lot of those credits that we require that the state doesn't require are things that the state is going to start requiring. So for example, we require that half of CTE that currently the state does not require. We require the half of financial literacy that the state does not require, and then we require one extra elective course that the state does not require. And so the state is absorbing 2 of the classes that we already require, which is why their elective number is so much lower than our elective number. And so, I don't know the history of when the board adopted that, but we've believed in Wichita Public Schools that financial literacy is important and that every student should have it to graduate, and that CTE is important, and that students need some sort of STEM CTE piece to graduate. And so a lot of that is now being absorbed in the current state policy. And so really when we first got this, it was a lot of, oh, look at us ahead of the game, which was really nice. And it's nice to be in the driver's seat in some sense related to the changes, because there are some districts that are going to be rocked by these changes. And for us, yeah, there's a lot of nuance to it. So much nuance. Goodness, how long did we spend in some of the nuance here? But overall, we're set up very well to make these changes for our students.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Our expectations were higher, Diane.
It's been a long time since we moved it up. Okay, I see no more questions. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much, ladies. Next item.
Next item, 2024 legislative agenda.
Dr. Bielefeld?
Sure. So, welcome to Gil and Susan. I'll let them introduce themselves. But we wanted to bring this before you guys tonight as our WPS. Oh, sorry. She's like air traffic control up there waving at me, trying to get my attention. Sorry, Jennifer. Thank you. Tonight we bring to you a proposed legislative agenda for the 2024 legislative session that will be coming up as soon as the calendar turns. I've invited Gil and Susan tonight to go over this with us. This is intended to be kind of our own specific set of expectations or hopes from a district purview that incorporates things from other groups that we advocate with, but also some things that are specific to us. So with that, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Bielefeld. President Logan, Vice President Albert, Superintendent, I was about to call you President, Superintendent Bielefeld, members of the board, I am glad to be back with you. You know, I was very appreciative to be presenting with our superintendent, but this is my first time presenting with Susan, who is a legend, so I have to be on my game today. We're going to bring to you our WPS legislative agenda update. So we wanted to share with you and everyone what are the things that we want to bring forward as we go forward to advocate for our needs in the Wichita Public School. But before we get to the what, the specific content or the items from our agenda, want to share the why. Why are we having a separate WPS legislative agenda? And first off, we want to advocate for our own beliefs, our beliefs for our own students here in the Wichita Public Schools. Also, we are, because of the difference in needs compared to other Kansas schools due to our size and demographics, there are some needs that we need to really advocate for. That doesn't mean that we're not going to advocate with some of those other ones, which is in bullet point number 2. But WPS needs a singular voice in addition to KASB and other group voices. So that's the why behind it. So we wanted to share with you specifically what are these legislative agenda topics that we want to bring forward. So we are going to share kind of 3 themes for our legislative agenda. And the first one is investing in student success, which I will be talking about. And then Susan will talk about investing in staff, and then commitment to resources. So those are the 3 themes, and we're going to tell you specifically what are the items under each of those. So starting with investing in student success. The first one we want to bring forward is the individualized and blended learning models. As you know, as we did some remote learning back in the pandemic, we're not saying bring back the remote learning, but we definitely want to bring back opportunities for blended learning for our students. Right now we have virtual, which is you're at home doing virtual learning, or you're bricks and mortar, you're at the school. But a student should be able to be at school learning from another teacher from another building, doing that type of learning through kind of a blended type of model. So we're looking for ways to still receive funds. Students may better use blended learning for their own success. So why are we holding ourselves just to the 2 types of model and not have the middle of the road where students can still be successful in a blended type of model using face-to-face and online learning together? So that's going to be one of the items that we're going to take forward. The second one, under investing in student success, we want to fully fund our high-quality all-day pre-K students. So right now, we get half, our current funding for pre-K is half base state aid, which is around $2,544. And that's our normal model is half-day pre-K, so state pays for that. We do have 3 pilots going on right now, though, that's all day. So the state will only pay us for half of that. We have to come up with the other half, which then ties into how much funding can we afford to be able to do that. But we do have that in 3 pilot schools currently to see how that goes. So, but we're looking to fully fund all-day pre-K for students. And the last one under investing in student success is going to be our career and technical education. So we want to increase the weightings for CTE from 0.5 to 0.75 for career and technical education, so we can offer more of those pathways that we know, and you saw it on a strategic plan, but we also know that businesses and even around our state that we're wanting to see more of those CTE pathways so students are career ready. So those are the 3 under investing in student success. I'll turn over to Susan to talk about investing in staff.
Thank you, Gil. So the investing in staff is not so much about the financial investment in staff. I think the board has done a remarkable job since 2017 making investing in staff through compensation a priority, and has seen that commitment through to this year and even next year. What we're really looking at from our legislative groups and even KSDE and the State Board of Education is more flexibility when it comes to hiring teaching staff. We know that the most important relationship there is between a quality teacher and a student. And that's where the success factors really hit the road, is when those 2 pieces come together. When our classrooms are vacant of a qualified teacher, we know that primary success indicator is missing. And in our case, we have 260 vacancies currently. Over 100 of those are teaching vacancies. So those classrooms, while being filled with long-term subs, are not successful. They are successful, but they don't have a qualified teacher in that classroom. They're spread all through the district, but this is the help that we're looking for, is how do we get more flexibility in licensure to get those positions filled. And so we want some flexibility when it comes to new teachers having to pass certain tests. The state board actually in September loosened up some of those rules, but we need continued loosening up of some of those rules, particularly during a time where it's difficult to recruit people to the profession. So how can we partner with our legislative groups to get some of these teaching programs into place, loosen up some of these licensure requirements, particularly for out-of-state teachers. We do know that when an out-of-state teacher comes to Kansas, there is a whole laundry list of requirements they have to meet before they're licensed to teach in our state. We need right now to get those, we need to fast track some of those people into our classrooms. And then really working with our partners to create those pathways to get more teachers into the profession. Whether that's kind of more grow your own, whether that's working with our universities to create those pathways to a bachelor's level special ed versus a master's level. All items should be on the table to get more teachers employed by school districts across Kansas. Additionally, as we move to the commitment of resources, there are 3 primary areas we're looking for some additional support from the state legislature. For the past 7 or 8 years, the legislature has done a good job of meeting its commitment to Gannon, and we are receiving the scheduled base aid increases, and that has worked well. But there are a few areas that of specific targeted resource needs that we want to have some conversation around in this coming year. The first one has to do with what Gil talked about earlier, is that blended learning model. Where we really struggle financially is a student can be part-time bricks and mortar and part-time virtual. The problem is the virtual state aid is a tiered plan. A 1.0 virtual student drives $5,600 of base aid into the virtual program. But anything less than 1.0, so that student can be a 0.9 virtual student, we are getting prorated 0.9 times $2,800, not 0.9 times $5,600. So there is an automatic penalty built into the program that hinders us on the virtual side of having a part-time virtual, part-time bricks and mortar student. So what we're looking for is, let's create some parity so that you can have a student that maybe needs some attention through bricks and mortar, needs to come in for certain classes, but has certain areas where they could go virtual and kind of self-drive that educational model. So can we get to educational parity throughout that funding model? And then from that point, we could really start talking about what blended learning really looks like financially. The other piece, we've been talking about this for years, is continued push for additional special education funding to meet the statutory requirement of getting 92% of excess costs. We anticipate 2024, we will be in the high 60s, probably 68, 69%. For Wichita, that's probably about a $17 million number of underfunded special education. There has been some discussion at some of the committee meetings about the legislature renaming some local option budget aid as special education aid. We obviously will vigorously debate that issue, that does not help our students, particularly our students in most need. A phase-in is perfectly fine with us. We'll take it as the state can afford to give it to us, but it is vitally important that we continue to advocate for those students. Those students' needs are being met. It's taking the general fund and transferring it to special education, therefore leaving certain areas of general education unfunded. That's our argument. That's what will continue to talk about. And then finally, the other item we really want to start to have some conversation around is the state aid for bonds. The state legislature has been dealing with bond state aid for a number of years, and depending on when you pass a bond, there's like 4 different sets of rules. You have bonds before 2015, you have bonds in 2015 to 20, in 20, and then 22. There's like 4 different sets of rules. Currently, if you pass a bond, you get state aid based on the second lowest district assessed valuation per pupil, whatever that is, and that actually is Galena at $27,700 a student. That's the second lowest. The lowest is Fort Leavenworth, but because that's federal land, there's only $1,000, I think, per pupil in Fort Leavenworth. So they excluded Fort Leavenworth from the formula. Now it's Galena. It could change, but from that point, Galena gets 51% of their bonds in the form of state aid. From that, every $1,000 higher than Galena, you reduce that 51% by 1%. So Wichita is sitting at $74,300 assessed valuation per pupil. If we passed a bond, we'd get about 3% of state aid. We're currently getting 52% in state aid on our bonds. That's a huge change and really a heavy burden on local taxpayers, particularly in a district of our size where we're not going to pass a $2 or $3 million bond. We'll be passing hopefully hundreds of millions of dollars worth of a bond issue. So that state aid becomes a more critical discussion for us and for our local taxpayers. So we'd at least like to see that base go from 51% up to 75% and then start to reduce down. So that would put Wichita getting about 27, 28% state aid, which isn't 52% like we're currently receiving, but far better than the 3 to 4% we would get under current state law. So I'll pass that back over to Gil.
Thank you, Susan. We're also going to have we're going to host a legislative coffee. So in collaboration with WSU Tech, we're going to host a legislative coffee at the Future Ready Manufacturing Center by North High School at 8:30 a.m. on December 7th, so you're welcome to attend. I just wanted everybody to know that we will continue our discussions around our legislative agenda moving forward. So with that, if there's any questions around those 3 areas of investing in student success, investing in staff, and commitment to resources, we are open for any questions.
Julie?
Yeah, thank you for this information. What is the plan of our district? And maybe this is a question for Superintendent, but what is the plan for us to get this information to those who it matters that we get it to?
So
Frozen.
a
Worshipped.
couple things. One would be, rolling it out at the legislative coffee that we hope, we have good attendance at. Two, and probably the main thing would be giving this to Capital Strategies and telling them, as our relations, government relations group in Topeka, here's what we'd like to see, right? Here's what we would like to see you guys work on for us this latest legislative session. I don't think it's probably anything too earth-shattering, but they'll know our priorities, because there's some things, that other groups are advocating for that aren't on our list.
Sure.
So they'll know these are the things that, as the organization that's working for us, that here's what we would like to prioritize. And then we'd also like to get in front of admin, provide an overview to principals. As things come up, during the legislative session, it's important that we're informed and we kind of know the implications of these things happening or not happening as they get decided. Unfortunately, the last couple of years, there's kind of the committee work that ends up not really mattering too much, and then a whole bunch that happens right there at the end, and there's about a 48-hour window of decisions being made. So it can be pretty important to be in touch to know kind of where these things are leading and where they're going. So
Thank you.
Yep.
Hazel?
My question is goes back to Lauren Hatfield. I don't know if this is possible. You were talking about investing in student success, removing limits on remote learning for success. And I was just wondering, we were talking about the math requirements and for the 8th graders. If we had remote, could that be like remote learning from a qualified or certified teacher in high school? Could the 8th graders do remote learning through the?
That could be a possibility. Look, as long as they're being taught by, you're talking about one of the 9th grade teachers teaching Algebra 1, for example, and the students are remotely to the students in 8th grade. I mean, that is something that we could definitely do, that we don't have it currently, but that would be an opportunity.
I was curious. Thank you.
Kathy?
Thank you for that presentation. I do have a question, and correct me if I'm wrong. This is, we're asking to have advocacy up in Topeka on behalf of 259. Did we not have a position already in place with administration that did that for us? And what happened?
We did, and kind of consolidating advocacy efforts in an effort to kind of be more efficient and leaner. We just readjusted the model, and so that's part of why we're hoping this model works better. That we have a more universal platform that we can share kind of far and wide, and do things like a legislative coffee that I don't know that we've done ever, or if, I don't know, to hopefully be more impactful and more effective with it.
So this legislative coffee, are we going to have representatives from Topeka at that coffee to hear us?
We hope, yeah.
You hope?
Yes, we hope so.
So this is going to be in place of having that one person that goes up to advocate for us.
Well, to answer that, for what happens during the session, might be your question. We have contracted with Capital Strategies, and so there are kind of eyes and ears and boots on the ground in Topeka, and it's because we don't have a designated person. We've talked at a DLT level. It might be any one of us that has to be called on to go testify or be part of a hearing. If it's a special ed thing, it might be Dr. Evans. If it's a teacher licensure thing, it might be Sean. So it just kind of depends on what the topic is. And in a way, I think it may be in my mind, it's a better model. Instead of having one person who maybe isn't super knowledgeable about all the things we do in WPS, we can have the person that knows be there. It just will require some schedule flexibility on our end to be kind of a beck and call to some extent.
So that position, so I understand it, is dissolved.
Right, that's
there
correct.
There is no more of that.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Ernestine?
Well, I think this is an interesting thing that we're going to have this coffee invite our local legislators to come in and to represent us. And one of the things that I wanted to suggest to the board members and to the citizens out here is it is pretty evident that legislators pay attention to handwritten letters. So if some of you want to get a head start on January, when the legislators go up to Topeka, writing a letter and saying that we need to change this or that, or in this case, we've got specific change that we want, writing a handwritten letter. I'll tell you another little trick. When you write your letter, take a pencil and kind of curl the corner. Then when it's on somebody's desk, it doesn't get stuck to the page underneath it. It makes it so your letter just kind of stands out. You could also write it on a colored piece of paper, and that helps. So I've been doing this for a long time. And that lets me say to the Scouts is that you would be shocked at how many of your letters, that when you write a letter, that the person says, well, you're the only person that's written to me about this. It is amazing. If they get even 6 letters on an issue, they feel like it's a landslide. So when you write a letter to a government official, yeah, I am a government teacher, you can tell, can't you? But when you write a letter, it makes a big difference because there's thousands of people who aren't writing letters, and so your opinion gets heard. And I want to suggest that all of us, in this time before Christmas, when the legislators are still in Wichita, still at home, that we call them and talk to them on the phone or write them a letter, because writing the letter, they've got it in front of them, and we can write our stats or our ideas or our suggestions. So I urge that we do something. Now that we know where our positions are and what our needs are, this would be a time for us to do that.
Thank you. Diane?
Thank you for the presentation tonight. There is always a lot of debate around special education and what excess costs are. Do we have a document that writes out and spells out what we're defining as excess costs for special education?
We have done one-pagers before that go through that calculation. It's a lot, right? I mean, I think we need Dr. Hatfield to put on her math hat and translate most of it. But yes, we have done the calculation. We've included it in special ed one-pagers. We will try to have some material for the legislative breakfast so that we can hand those pieces out to show here's where Wichita sits and here's the shortfall. KSDE, when we ask them for this information, we typically get back, well, there's 2 or 3 ways to calculate it. And some of them will give you different answers, but in the ballpark of around the same number. So can I definitively say the way we're doing it is the way KSDE does it? No, because they're...
It's kind of like filing your taxes, right?
Yes, very similar. So, but we think we're in the ballpark of this is where our shortfall is based on how we understand the 92% of excess cost calculation.
Okay, and then do we list out what those, not just the formula, but what we are considering are excess costs in categories?
We can. I mean, we haven't as far as, here's our labor costs, here's our, salaries, benefits, supply, I mean, all of those things, we would have it.
Okay. I would like to go over that at some point in time, not necessarily in a board meeting, but I would like to see the one-pager to go over and understand this in a deeper way.
Okay. I just want to thank you all very much for putting this together. And we have this document, the 24 legislative agenda, which lists the points that you presented to us tonight, but it also goes into more detail and explains it a little further, which is excellent because you really can see what we're looking at and what we're asking for in this document. I'm glad we've got a legislative meeting scheduled. I hope we have great attendance. If we write those letters, let's encourage them to come because it's difficult to talk to people if they're not there. So we hope that they come.
One last thing. We're doing this in conjunction with WSU Tech, so we're both going to kind of be sending out invites, but by all means, invite the people that are elected officials. And I think it deserves to be said again, our advocacy ultimately is for our students, right? Like what this legislative platform, it can get really in the weeds with numbers and factors and percentages and all of that, but ultimately, if we could achieve these things, it would be better for our kids, it'd be better for our staff, that we have better resources, we have highly qualified teachers in every classroom. So I think that needs reiterated, because it's easy to kind of get lost in all this, verbiage and, what were, 0.5s and 0.75s and all that. But this is kids, and this is futures, and this is investing in our community. So hopefully we are listened to, and we know there's finite amounts of resources in the world, so we know not all of these things may happen, but at least we can say we're trying to do everything we can for our kids in 259. So thanks.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. Next item.
Next item, executive session.
Cheryl,
Diane? Oh, I'm sorry.
do you need a motion to, I thought we had to have a motion to adopt the legislative.
It's in the consent.
It's
Oh, it's in
under
the
the
consent.
consent, yeah. Okay, Diane?
I move the board recess into an executive session to discuss litigation with the board's legal counsel pursuant to the exception for matters which would be deemed privilege in the attorney-client relationship under the Kansas Open Meetings Act. And the open meeting will resume in this room at 8:10.
Second.
It was moved by Diane and seconded by Stan that we move to executive session. Please cast your vote. Oops, not quite ready. Motion passes 7-0. We are in executive session. I call the meeting back to order from executive session. Next item, please.
Next item, consent.
Kathy, do you have anything to pull?
I have nothing to pull.
Julie?
Nothing to pull.
Hazel?
Nothing to pull.
Diane?
Nothing to pull.
And I'm not pulling anything. Stan?
E4,
E4, the graduation rule.
yes.
Okay. Ernestine?
Nothing to pull.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to pass the rest of the agenda.
So moved.
It's moved by Julie, seconded by
I'll second that.
Diane, that we pass the rest of the consent agenda. Please cast your vote. Hazel, yours hasn't come in. Oh, there we go. Motion passes 7-0. Stan with E4?
Cheryl, I would like to move that we keep policy 6333, graduation rules and diploma, on first read for a second read at the December what meeting?
I believe it's
The-
December 11th.
December 11th meeting?
So this
then
would
the
be
rest-
considered a first read tonight? With
I'm
your
s-
motion? This would be considered a first read tonight and the
Right.
second read in December?
Yes.
Okay,
Just to have enough time to digest some of those graduation rule changes.
okay. The motion was made. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, it was made by Stan and seconded by Ernestine.
Just to clarify, is this motion that you're making, Stan, is this to approve the other two
Yes.
proposed policies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the only one you're pulling is the graduation rule policy, correct?
Correct.
All right,
So just to confirm, just clear,
Yeah.
by consent, we're adopting policy revision 4026.2 and policy 7350.
yeah. Do we
Yes.
need a motion for that, Patrick? Okay,
That's what Stan's motion is.
okay. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Kathy?
Stan, what is it that you don't understand why we can't just go ahead and pass this now for the sake of time? I think they explained it very well tonight. With your questions, it helped me understand it a whole lot more. Tell me what it is that you're having an issue with.
I think my issues are all cleared up. I think with the fact that the staff wants this done by January 1st, gives us the time to do it, and then also gives us the time to digest these changes.
Well, they will be off for 2 weeks in December. So the sooner that we could pass this, like tonight, the sooner they can get working on it for the benefit of administration.
Yes, this is not the most critical motion I've ever made in my life, but it's something I think that would be beneficial for us. It also gives the public a chance, extra time to get this information and understand it as well.
So are we going to go ahead and give time for all of these policy changes and keep delaying it and put it off for the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting?
No, I wouldn't assume that. I think what you would see is this gives an opportunity from now to December 11th for this, number one, for the board members to digest that information, and secondly, for the public to get that information. But I didn't pull it off to not approve it. I just said keep it at first reading. That way on December 11th, we have time to approve it and get the changes in place before January 1.
I put my name up because I feel like I understand this policy, and I feel like there is a bit of a sense of urgency because they do need to bring back policies, other policies that'll be affected that they need to be able to have before they start the enrollment process in January. So I'm not going to support the motion. Someone else is, Stan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's why I left it on, that's why the motion was to leave it on first read, because staff can now still proceed on the fact that this is going to be policy, but at the same time, it gives us time to, if last minute questions come up about it, we can have time to address it on December 11th.
Diane?
If I was to say this policy, if I was tabling this policy, I would say what you said was absolutely correct, but I'm leaving it on first read.
Okay, thank you. Diane?
I'm going to agree with Cheryl on this one, Stan, because they can have flexibility to change different minor things with the graduation requirements. I empathize with your concern for that, but because there is a flexibility built into it, I do think that it would be prudent to get this back to staff so they can move forward with it. So those are just my thoughts.
And I'm definitely not taking it from staff.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to clear. I totally understand if you wanted to vote against it. I just want to make sure that no one from the public thought I was taking it away from staff.
Right. Hazel?
And I'm going to say that I agree with Diane and Cheryl and Kathy. However, I would like to say that we typically do first, second reads. So
Correct.
We do typically do that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the norm.
Except when there's an urgency.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm seeing no other comments, so we are ready to vote on the motion. And the motion is that we pull policy 6333 and put it as a first read and then move it to the second read in December. Please cast your vote. Oops, can't yet. See, we had a motion by Stan, a seconded by Ernestine. Now we can vote.
Yeah. I hope he didn't.
Okay.
Well, that's okay.
Motion passes.
Abstain is still a no vote, so
Yes.
if you wanted to vote no, you're okay.
So it does not pass. There's 4 noes, 2 yeses, 4 noes, and 1 abstain. So the motion fails to pass. So we can vote on this if there's a motion to pass it.
I'd like to make a motion to pass policy number 6333.
Is there a second?
And the other
No,
one.
that was already in.
The other ones have already been
The other
passed.
ones were already approved.
You voted no against passing the other two.
No, we voted no.
We voted yes to pass the other 2. This is the only one that was pulled.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it was moved by Kathy and seconded by Diane to pass policy 6333. Please cast your vote. Motion passes 6-1. Next item.
Next item, under policy, final review, proposed update to learning services policy.
Okay, this is a final review for policy 5506, which is the non-resident enrollment and admission. And this is the policy that we had the opening hearing at the earlier part of the meeting, and there was one speaker for it. Okay. Is there,
I'd like
Stan?
to make a motion.
We have one, Stan?
Go ahead, Kathy. I'll second yours.
Thank you. I'd like to file a motion. I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and pass current policy 5506.
And that's why I was raising my hand to make that motion, so I'll second it.
Okay, Julie?
It says final review. Is this the third?
No, it's the second.
Last time we had tried to have a second, and then we realized we had to have a public hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah,
Right.
technically, this is the third review of
Yeah,
it.
okay, that's
It's-
what I thought. And that's why it's published as final review instead of second review.
Correct.
Because it's technically a third review.
Right.
That's just a technicality, but I just wanted to make
You
sure
keep
I
us honest, that's
understood the
good.
agenda.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor, and I see no other discussion. The motion was made by Kathy and seconded by Diane. Please cast your vote. Oh, by Stan, thank you. Seconded by Stan. Yours is just being obstinate tonight, isn't it? Okay, she votes yes, so the motion passes 7-0. Next item?
Next item, second review, proposed update to financial services policy.
And this is policy 3308, and it is our second read, so we will vote on it tonight. I see no discussion. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass current policy 3308.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion was made by Kathy and seconded by Julie to pass policy 3308. Okay, we'll work on yours to get it fixed. Motion passes 7-0. Next item?
Next item, first review, proposed updates to Board of Education policies.
Okay, and we do have two policies, and I'm going to separate these out. The first policy is policy 0700, and the second policy is policy 3714. The first one is on expenses for the board, and the second one is on voluntary early retirement program. So I'm going to take them one at a time, please. First item is policy 700, expenses of the Board of Education. Diane?
I move that the discussion and review of policy P0700 be tabled until after the February 12th, 2024 Board of Education meeting.
I second that.
This is just a first review. Yeah, this is just a first review.
Yeah, but we can table it even on a first review.
Okay.
Okay, and your motion states table it until after the February meeting? So
On or after.
On or after, okay.
And I seconded it.
Yes. All right. We have a motion with Diane and a second with Kathy. There are several people that would like to speak. Diane?
I believe this policy should be discussed and after the new board members that have won the election are seated and have time to review this policy.
Julie?
I'm actually the one that requested this be on the agenda tonight. And I would like to go ahead and have tonight be the first read and then have second read and vote in December. This is the way the policy clarification is just an update of how we have been operating. Actually, we've been operating this way for 50 years. And I just felt that there needed to be a reinforcement of our current practice actually written in the policy because of the statutory changes. So I would like to continue to have this be first read and second read and voting in
Okay.
December.
We do have a motion on the floor that tables it, so we'll have to vote on that first, and if it fails, then I'll come back to you for another motion. Is that okay?
Could I request that Diane change her motion to on January as opposed to on or later? It reads now on or later.
It's tabled until on or after the February
Okay,
meeting.
February. So could we say on the February meeting as opposed to on or after?
I'm just trying to provide some flexibility. I did not choose January because it's going to be the new board members' first meeting. And so I wanted to give them a little bit of time out of respect for them. And then I also want to provide flexibility just in what's in regard to what's on our agendas already. So that's why it's on or after, so that way we can review that.
Okay.
What
well, that's
Julie is
just a
asking,
delay.
I think, for you is, would you be willing to change your motion to have it on February, or do you want to leave it the way it is?
I would prefer to continue with flexibility.
Okay.
Hazel?
Yes, I agree with Diane, as we have new board members coming on, and I think that this discussion should include them, as they will be on the board for the next 4 years. And I think it's not fair for us to have any kind of discussion without their input. And I think Diane is right, that we need to give them time, because they come in January, and it's very overwhelming, and I think that we need to have a clear discussion on this matter.
Okay, thank you. Kathy?
I want to echo what Hazel and Diane are saying. I think that because we do have 2 new people coming on board, and like Hazel said, it is very overwhelming. The 2 board members that are rolling off, this vote will not affect them at all, but it will affect those of us that are still serving after January of 2024. So I support Diane's motion.
Okay. Julie?
And I just want to add that everyone does realize that if this policy would pass in December, that a new board could at any time, when they were in office, could then bring the policy back and revise it in whatever way they would choose as a new board.
Yeah, any of our policies, a board member or members can bring back and have us review. Okay. I am seeing no further discussion, so I'm going to call for the motion. It was made by Diane and seconded by Kathy, and the motion says that we would table policy 0700 until on or after the February meeting. Please cast your votes.
This
Oh, we
vote-
have to do it by hand. That's how long my memory is. This is not, we can't vote on it electronically because it's not set up that way. So we're going to vote by hand. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, which is to table it until on or after the February meeting, please raise your right hand. Okay, 5 votes. And those opposed to tabling it? 1 votes. Julie? And Ernestine is abstaining. So Kathy, Hazel, Diane, Cheryl, and Stan voted to table it. Julie voted against tabling it, and Ernestine abstained. So the motion passes to table this until after February the 15th, 5-2. Now, our next policy is policy 3714, voluntary early retirement, and this is a first read for this, so we will not vote on it tonight. So are there any questions, concerns, as you've read through this policy? Is there anything that you would like to have adjusted or discussed? Julie?
Yes, I would like for the team that worked on this to review item 8D. The rewrite wasn't clear to me. I didn't understand what they were trying to say. So maybe it's like got a long run-on sentence there in the middle of it. If they could just work on rewriting that. I agree with the content of the policy. It just was difficult for me to understand what they were trying to say with this statement. So,
Sean, do you want to speak to it, or?
Yeah, good evening, board members. Sean Hudspeth, Chief Human Resource Officer. In 8D, Julie, we added in district, but do you see the part where it struck all benefits provided? The retiree under the provisions of the early retirement program shall be terminated the last day of the month in which the retiree dies or attains age 65.
right,
Okay, so are you suggesting the edit before or after that line?
after,
Starting with if applicable?
yes.
Okay, and did you have a recommendation that you wanted us to consider?
I'd be happy to send you something. I
Okay.
didn't draft something for tonight because I didn't know that I had that opportunity, but I'd be happy to send you
Okay,
something.
if you want to send us that, we just drafted that in conjunction with our insurance broker to make sure that it was clear and matched that guideline. So this is meant just to kind of clean that up. It's not actually changing any
Right,
mechanics of the policy.
and after Superintendent Bielefeld read to me the explanation, I understood that you were trying to keep it the way it is, that it operates currently. You were just
Correct.
trying to clarify it, and I
Yep.
totally agree with that. I just didn't understand that's what you were trying to do by the way it was written.
Okay.
So
If you can get us that suggestion, and then we'll modify that, and then it'll be in there, depending upon that, for your second read, which we'll bring back on December 11th.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay. I see no other questions on that, so we will have that modified and back for the board table for our second read in December. Okay, next item.
Next item, under reports, United Teachers of Wichita.
Hey, welcome.
Good evening, President Logan, Vice President Albert, BOE members, and Superintendent Bielefeld. It's American Education Week, so I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of our employees for their dedication and hard work. I also wanted to thank the community for their support of public schools. One of the ways that we can support our educators is to look at ways to reduce their workload. So I know that everyone knows that teachers work well past the contract day and a lot of time on weekends, and that when there aren't substitutes, they're filling in and working on their plan times. And so we've noticed that there's been just an increase of burnout lately with our staff, and we really, really appreciate that Deputy Superintendent Gil Alvarez has been working with us on a survey for our staff to look at how to reduce workload to support and retain our hardworking teachers. So I just wanted to say thank you. I also wanted to thank Julie Hedrick. She came with me out to Buckner Elementary about a week ago, and the staff there was so thankful for you coming in to check in on our teachers and seeing the wonderful things that they're doing firsthand. And just, it was nice to spend the afternoon with you visiting classrooms, so thanks for doing that. Congratulations, Stan, on your reelection, and thank you for joining us to celebrate our educators last Thursday at the UTW Educator Appreciation Event. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Next item, Service Employees International.
I see no one here tonight, so next item.
Next item, Superintendent's Report.
All right, thank you, Patrick. I'm going to take a little bit different of an approach since we just had a board meeting 2 weeks ago, which is a little bit of a challenge, having a board meeting every 2 weeks. It was a quick turnaround. But because it's November, because Thanksgiving's coming up, I wanted to just thank and recognize people. I get asked a lot, especially because I'm new, how's it going? Are you overwhelmed? Are you drinking from the fire hose? All that kind of stuff. And the answer is yes, it's busy, but yes, we're being successful. And that isn't because of me, but that's because of my team and the people that I'm truly thankful for. So I want to just say a few things about my people tonight, and some of them left, so they're going to have to watch this on YouTube tomorrow. But anyway, I'll still say it. So first off, to our general counsel, Dan Lawrence. He is just a well of wisdom, and he uses big words that I don't understand sometimes, but he is an awesome confidant, just a truly remarkable thinker, the way he can process things and advocate for things and make sure that we're staying on course. I've never worked in a district that had a full-time counsel like that, and it is invaluable. It really is. So, Dan, thanks for all that you do. Fabian Armendariz, who was here earlier tonight, one of the best leaders I've ever worked with. Great communicator, great personality, sees the big picture, willing to jump in and tackle challenging things. Terry Moses, who's hasn't nodded off there in the back. Director of Safety and Security. You know, Terry is one of those people that just conveys confidence. We trust her. You just trust Terry naturally when she talks. But getting to know Terry and working with her individually, she has the best heart for people. She loves people. And when we're in DLT meetings, that's always what she's bringing up. We got to take care of our people. What about the people? It's true. It's true. Patrick, you know, is always there at beck and call, even with my weird questions and quirks and all the things I like to do. But, you know, Patrick is very dedicated to his craft. He takes these meetings very seriously, and I really value you as a human being and as a supporter of all of us, because he's running around here plugging our things in and checking our batteries and all that kind of stuff too. So Wendy Johnson, just a total depth of knowledge for like all things everywhere all the time. March 12th, when it was announced that I got the job, I did all the first initial, you know, video and interview and all that kind of stuff. And then Wendy and I sat there for an hour or two, just kind of chatting about things and life and family and you guys and what it was going to be like and all of that stuff. There is no bigger advocate in Wichita Public Schools for Wichita Public Schools and for Wichita in general. And I was thinking about this today. You know, Diane jokes that in Wichita there is like 2 degrees of separation, you know, like between everybody in Wichita. And I'm pretty sure it's like 2 degrees of Wendy Johnson, because Wendy knows everybody, and then everyone's connected to Wendy by about 2 people in relationship-wise. So, and I can't not mention the strategic plan, and I do appreciate you recognizing kind of the speed. It was quick. I think we have a great product, but we've been working very, very hard. So, Sean, you know, Sean is a spark of joy in our admin meetings. He always has a good joke. He's very quick-witted, but he knows his HR stuff inside and outside and all these acronyms and insurance things and all sorts of things. And he very much is a person that you know, wants to improve the system, wants to get better, and is always looking for ways to do that. Not here tonight, but one that I do want to mention too is Dr. William Polite, Director of Equity, Inclusion, and Accountability. Recently, we've made some internal adjustments to where Will is directly reporting to me now, which isn't the way it's done in the past, which I think speaks to, you know, our desire to really keep equity at the forefront. The work that he's doing, we'll hear more about in December, and it's super cool and super exciting, and we've seen data to do it, along with being just like an awesome human being, and just the ultimate heart for kids. The work he's done in JDF with kids that are often thrown away and forgotten is truly, truly remarkable. So not many people like him. Luke Newman, who also left early, but Luke is just, I think he and I of all the team kind of operate and think along the same lines a lot of ways. I think he's found a lot of trust and ownership in us working together. He is just a steadfast, quality human being, full of integrity, always willing to do the right thing. So he's been great. And then, you know, Gil called her the legend. I won't call her the legend, but Susan, Susan the Wise, Susan sees all perspectives all the time, which is so unique in a leader that she can see 2 or 3 steps ahead. What if we do this? What if we don't do this? What are the implications? She's the first person I go to when I need context, I need history, I need to think about things, and she's definitely willing to think outside the box. It's so valuable to our district. And Gil, a lot of times when I talk about Gil, best educator I've ever worked with, and I mean that. The guy that gets kid learning, the guy that gets adult learning, the guy that gets what it takes to move systems forward, passionate advocate for all of us, for everybody in the system, but especially our kids. Would not be able to do it without Gil, for sure. And last but not least, the guy we all love, Joseph. He bakes a mean cake, but more than that, he's somebody that we can laugh together, we can cringe together sometimes when things need cringed at. I feel like he's a great confidant. He is a steady rock in kind of the world of the hubbub that is this job, and doesn't helps me to not get too flustered, not get too high, too low, and I would not be able to do it all without him. And I think we all of you that work with Joseph know that too, how good he is, and just a great quality human being. So I couldn't be here. We couldn't have the success without those people, right? It takes this team. So in this time of gratitude and in November, I just wanted to take a moment to thank my people for all that they do and all that they do for our kids. Thank you.
Amen. We all second that. We have great people in this district. Next item.
Next item under reports, Board of Education.
This is requests.
No, reports.
Oh, reports, beg your pardon. Okay, Ernestine?
Diane, what's the name of the church that fed the children at Clark the other day?
Heartland Community Church.
Heartland Community Church honored the teachers at Clark, and I went over and was able to be with the teachers while they were being fed by these lovely people from Heartland Community Church. And I just really enjoyed meeting those teachers and giving them my greatest thank you. And that brings me to want to thank all of the teachers in this district. We have such incredible teachers, and the time and the efforts they put in at night and on weekends and well off the clock, I really thank the teachers. The other thing I did was going to the Kansas Association of School Boards convention just this past weekend, and there was a program in there that I'm going to try to track down that had to do with some ways to change behavior. And so I'm going to try to find that and bring it and suggest that we maybe investigate it further, because it was no sense in inventing the wheel if somebody else has figured out some things. Thank you all.
Stan?
No report.
Diane?
Just quickly, I gave an update to the Greater Wichita Ministerial League about just a quick update about where the district's at, and then also about our Future Ready centers. I did attend a number of conferences, one mainly focusing on improving student achievement, and so it's that student outcomes focused governance model. I attended the Future Ready Center tour and greeted a group from Textron Aviation. I attended the JROTC Veterans Day ceremony, and then also attended the KSB conference with some of my fellow board members up here. So,
Hazel?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that Kelly, Mr. Bielefeld, sells himself short, because without a good leader, you don't have the support of your administration. And so I think that you're doing a great job in leadership, and your success, their success, your success is their success, vice versa. So I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing as a leader. I actually wanted to say that I was able to attend the Salute to Veterans ceremony, where there were, I think, 1,500 JROTC, did I say it right?
Yeah.
Students there. It was so magnificent. It was beautiful. It was just brought tears to your eyes to see these kids all out there, all marching together and all succeeding in their endeavors as becoming better citizens and better students. The other thing that I was able to attend today, actually with Diane, was at Pleasant Valley Middle School to honor Principal Justin Castle as the Principal of the Year. So, and that's all. Thank you.
Julie?
I just want to tell about two things that I did in the last couple of weeks. The first one, my fellow board members have also mentioned the Veterans Day celebration with our ROTC students. And I have to say that's one of my favorite things to do as a board member every year. It's just so impressive to see those students and through going through that program, learning discipline, learning respect, learning good citizenship, and it's just such a great program. And a number of us board members were there, but I just want to echo how much I enjoy that every year. And then the second thing that I just want to make a report about is at the Kansas Association of School Boards convention, the final keynote speaker was, she gave a personal history story as her speech, and it was very inspirational. She was a kid that grew up in poverty and then was on her journey to be second generation person in poverty. She had a couple of kids from different marriages, had gotten out of an abusive marriage, had years of problems with addiction, and she said that it was the teachers in one of her children's schools that supported her and her son, reached out to her, loved her, introduced her to a program regarding generational poverty, and she attributed her getting out of poverty and her current success as she actually works with a nonprofit now that deals with getting people out of poverty. And she just, in this last election, won an appointment to the McPherson School Board. And I just was so inspired and reminded again how much difference teachers make. And they make a difference in the life of our kids. You know, this gal was from McPherson, but it could have been somebody from Wichita telling this story, because our teachers are in a profession where they can change the world. And we have many teachers in Wichita that have that same amount of dedication and love for kids, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. Kathy?
I feel like it's Thankful Thursday. So this is good. Julie, thank you for saying what you just did. It dawned on me that I'm on a Facebook page with my high school classmates from almost 50 years ago. And one of my teachers passed away recently, and this was a teacher that was very significant, a math teacher of all teachers. But Mr. Chrysler, even I'm 65 and I still call him Mr. Chrysler because that's how I knew him. And you know, he was patient, he took his time with me, but I remember that teacher. So thank you for saying what you said. It reminded me of how important teachers are. And sometimes I think teachers underestimate their impact that they have on the student and on their community. And so teachers, please note that you are super appreciated by this board. Julie and I went to the Choral Invitational, and that was really exciting. The kids are sounding very good, and I was inspired by Southeast Madrigals because their choir teacher is currently battling an illness, and she was not there. and they did not need a leader because that leader taught those kids how to lead themselves, and they sounded superbly. So Southeast Madrigals, my hats off to you. On last week, the Northwest High School JROTC, along with Lieutenant Colonel Gibbons, were at the Aveda Nursing Home. Again, I did this last year as I volunteer with Good Shepherd Hospice, and they go to these nursing homes and recognize the veterans and appreciate them. So I was able to do that again and to fill that need. And I too went to the salute to the veterans with the JROTC, and they look sharper this year. I don't know if y'all who attended noticed, and even tonight, middle school, they were sharp, they were good, they were clean, they were in step, and I look for that stuff in an ROTC as well as their instructors do. So Lieutenant Colonel Poole is doing a great job in his new role here at the district. I also had an opportunity to make packages for the deployed. So there was a group of us through the volunteerofkansas.com, you could say, and that was a lot of fun to see people that are within the school district, not admin, but just in the community district, that they were there, and I knew a face, and so that was very gratifying. And I also was able to judge the Veterans Day Parade, and USD 259 was very present, again, with our ROTC cadets. And I'm so grateful, I am terribly grateful that this district offers that program. Like Julie said, it's a wonderful mentoring tool. And I saw one of our seniors from last year who graduated. He's actually in the Army National Guard. He had come back for that parade, and it was so nice to see him again. And so again, I thank you, USD 259, for having that program. And that program is a hill I will die on if it ever has to go away.
Thank you very much. Ernestine,
I would like for Superintendent Bielefeld to tell us all about the opening of the medical CTE Center.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Thursday at 9 o'clock. I think it's on your calendars, the ribbon cutting at the Future Ready Center for Health Sciences. So this is on East Harry at the old Wichita Mall. You all are invited, and it's a state-of-the-art facility along the same lines as what we're doing for manufacturing, building the pipeline of healthcare workers. So hope
And
to
the
see you there.
public is invited too, right?
Yeah.
very good, thank you. I've done many of the things that have already been mentioned, so I won't go over them. We are just a little over a week away from a holiday where we're all going to have a little time off, but this is American Education Week, and our teachers have been praised tonight, but we can't say enough good things about our staff, our teachers, our people, our core team. We have great people in this district, and they deserve a wonderful holiday. So please take time to relax, enjoy your holiday dinners, and take time for yourself, because unfortunately, staff doesn't do that often enough. And I also want to second the fact that you're really good at praising other people, but you're not very good about praising yourself. So we need to remind you that we really like you, and you're doing a great job for us.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
So, okay, next item.
Next item, under miscellaneous, new business.
I'm seeing none, so next item.
Next item, Board of Education requests.
Are there any requests? Again, I'm seeing none. Okay, next item.
Next item, executive session.
The first of several.
I move the board recess into executive session to discuss employee performance metrics pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exemption under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and the open meeting will resume in this room at 9:15. No, 9:15.
No, it's 10 till 9. It'd be
I second.
9:05.
That clock says 5 till, and this one says almost 15 till. So
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, 9:05. 9:05.
Okay.
Second.
It was moved by Diane, seconded by Stan.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy. First, I was worried about the time. Okay. Cast your vote. And Hazel is a? Yes. Yes, so the motion passes 7-0. We are in executive session. On executive session. Next item,
Next item, executive session.
Diane.
I move the board recess to an executive session to discuss an expulsion appeal pursuant to the exception relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The open meeting will resume in this room at 9:25.
Okay, the motion was made by Diane, seconded by Julie, that we move into another executive session. Please cast your vote. That's it. Motion passes 4-0. We are in executive session. Call the meeting back to order from executive session. Julie?
I make a motion that we overturn the findings of the hearing officer, and we recommend, do I give the details of the recommendation? Okay, we recommend expelling to May 23rd of 2024 with permanent removal from Southeast.
I second.
Okay, the motion was made by Julie and seconded by Kathy. Motion passes 5-0. Next item,
Next item, executive session.
Diane.
I move the board recess to an executive session to discuss an expulsion appeal pursuant to the exemption related to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and the open meeting will resume in this room at 9:35.
Second.
It was moved by Diane, seconded by Julie, that we move to executive session. Please cast your votes. Motion passed. Somebody didn't register in. Diane. Just, are you a yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0. We are in executive session.
And it's 9:35 on that clock, not that one.
Back to order from executive session. The board had a discussion about a hearing that was held on November the 6th, and the recommendation is that we uphold the findings of the hearing officer. Is there a second to that motion?
So moved.
It was moved by Cheryl, seconded
Oh,
by...
seconded by me. Diane.
By Diane. Please cast your vote.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Next item?
Next item, adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Julie and seconded by Stan that we adjourn the meeting. Please cast your vote.
I vote yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, and we will see you at our December meeting.